What's up, Brobama?
Hey, Donnie, ready to catch some hogs?
You know it. This was such a great idea. We've been cooped up in our houses for way too long.
True that. I'm tired of only communicating with the boys through Discord.
Any bites yet?
Nope. Only took a few casts so far. I did see some ducks, though.
That's pretty chill. Great weather for it, huh?
Right, Don, a beautiful day.
Where's Joe at?
He said he was stopping for some gear he needed.
How much do you want to bet that he's actually getting ice cream?
I would never take a bet like that. He uses any excuse to get some chocolate chip.
There he is now.
Hey, fellas.
Hey, Joe.
Sup, Sleepy? I see a little chocolate on the corners of your mouth there, bud.
Oh, thanks, man. I just got some ice cream on the way over.
That's cool. Pick one up for me next time.
You bet.
I tried, but Barack didn't take that bait.
Anything biting?
Just the bugs so far.
You're a real jokester, Barack.
What are you going for, Joe?
This lake is known for some good rainbows, so I figured I might catch me some dinner.
Fair enough. What's your presentation?
Good old earthworms and a bobber.
Amateur.
Shut your mouth. It's the most classic bait for fishing of all time.
Yeah, but your shit's gonna get swiped by a bluegill every time.
I don't mind. Sometimes I get a big bluegill.
That would be so cool, except for the fact that panfish are for losers and children.
Don't sleep on the bluegill.
Or you'll be sleeping with the bluegill.
You gotta stop hanging out with Bill. Dude makes death threats as much as you take naps.
Fuck off. What are you trying to bring in, Barack?
Well, I stopped by the local bait shop, and they happen to have some little minnows stocked, so I picked up a couple dozen. Got them on a free weight with a slider so they can swim around a bit, hoping to get a nice pre-spawn bass.
Aren't we all?
What do you got going on, Don?
I got a little crankbait working this drop-off over yonder. Might switch to a spinnerbait if those clouds roll in.
Solid approach.
Too much work. I love just chilling, cracking a beer, and watching my bobber.
That's the difference between you and me, Joe. You're just a dude that goes fishing while I'm a real sport fisherman.
You make it sound like you're an athlete.
Bass fishing is on SportsCenter.
So is the spelling bee, you fucking moron.
Get your bait in the water, you sleepy fuck.
True that. That's the spot.
That's the spot for a 4-inch sunfish to take your worm.
It's like you have a vendetta with the little guys. You can at least use them as bait.
There are so many better bait fish than sunfish.
You're tripping, Donnie. Bass love eating little bluegill.
Bass love eating anything. But bass will actually hesitate with bluegill and sunfish because they want to eat them head first to avoid the dorsal fin spikes.
It sounds like an advantage since you usually hook bait fish through the lips or nose.
The hesitation will lose you fish, especially the big smart ones. At least Obama knows what's good. He has minnows.
I have an idea. Why don't we do a freshwater fishing species tier list?
Sounds dope.
Might as well.
Alrighty then. Let's start with the bait fish argument.
So we're basing these rankings on what exactly?
For bait fish, it'll be traits like abundance, size, resilience, and overall appeal to game fish. When we start to rank the game fish, it'll be more based on strength, difficulty to catch, availability across the U.S., and the taste of the fish. If there's any other attributes that should raise or lower the fish in the tiers, then you should bring it up also.
Sweet, let's get into it.
Okay, how about we rank minnows first?
So we'll be covering the broad category of minnows?
Yeah, anything small like mosquito fish, daces, and rainbow smelt.
Only one of the fish you just mentioned are even minnows.
Dude, who the hell cares? Are you gonna start saying scientific names like, oh, that's actually Notropus dorsalis?
Biden rainbow smelt, children.
Okay, to make it easier, let's lump everything small into the minnow category, and anything a little bigger in the carp family, like the golden shiner, can be ranked separately as shiners. Even baby versions of larger fish could be in this category too.
In that case, minnows blow.
They don't blow, Don.
Okay, they don't blow, but shiners are top tier bait fish?
Yeah, pretty much.
What's wrong with minnows, though?
Hey, Barack, you said you had a couple dozen of those things. How are they doing?
I got a few floaters already.
Exactly. Minnows are usually short-lived and pretty small. Get those floaters out before the rest decide to die on you.
What will taking out the dead ones do?
It'll help not to stress the others out. Most fish release a hormone when they die to warn others of the same species to run. That stresses them out to the point where they have tiny little heart attacks.
But minnows are caught very easily. You can make a minnow trap out of any 2-liter bottle and get plenty of bait overnight.
Don't encourage kids to litter, Joe.
So we thinking B tier?
That's fair.
I agree. Now shiners.
Shiners and chubs are the best live bass bait, I think.
I'll agree with that. If you can't find the great golden shiner, There's plenty of alternatives around the U.S.
They are a little tougher to get your hands on. Shiners usually need a bigger trap than a 2-liter bottle. I also feel like they don't school up as well as minnows, so cast netting will also be slightly less successful.
You really do got to go out with a number 4 hook, or even smaller, with some bread or corn to get these bass magnets.
These little guys are usually pretty colorful as well.
And they can get pretty big for a bait fish.
It's one of the only bait fish that I release if they are too big. A nice 4 or 5 inch one is just fine.
Sounds like you're one of these new tiny dick positive Instagram thoughts.
I think the only issue with these guys is the fact that they are slightly harder to catch than minnows.
Doesn't mean it's really that hard.
No, but it does make a big difference considering they are a bait fish, but they're also a whole lot more hardy than the minnows.
Plus they actually taste pretty good.
You actually ate a golden shiner?
I try to keep whatever I can for a meal.
What kind of a psychopath eats a goddamn shiner?
The same kind that had a yummy dinner.
Why don't you go eat a flip-flop because you caught it? All things considered, I think shiners are still an S-tier bait fish.
I'm going to disagree with you slightly. Not the greatest bait fish ever. A tier.
I'm going with Barack here. It's not very easy to get a ton of them.
Skill diff.
Now let's talk shad.
There we go.
Oh shit, I should have known.
This is actually the best bait fish.
Shad are fucking chads.
Joe is so old he shat his pants.
Shad are all the best parts of the golden shiner, but they are tight schoolers and travel in the hundreds, making it easy to catch more than a day's worth of bait in a single throw of the cast net.
Plus, it seems like they're in huge numbers everywhere they exist.
I will admit that shad are pretty epic for generating huge bass or catfish.
They're great for any predator game fish that will appear in the list soon. They get even bigger than golden shiners sometimes as well.
You ever eat a shad over there, Gollum?
Way too bony. The shiner could be easily deboned at least, not these things.
I've seen people eat shad and love them. You can actually cook the bones down to the point where you can eat them.
That's pretty cringe, bro.
It is admittedly, but some of these giant 20-inch shad could make for a great meal for a person.
I'd much rather keep them as cut bait.
I've done that too, but keeping them in the freezer makes my ice cream taste shaddy.
Overall, as a bait fish, they are totally S tier.
Agreed. Herring could be lumped into this category too. How do we feel about bluegill and sunfish?
They are amazing little fish. They got me into fishing in the first place.
Their abundance in this country is unmatched.
Just like the illegal immigrants nowadays. Thanks, Joe.
You're such an orange-spotted asshole.
There are so many subspecies of sunfish. You got your bluegills, your greens, red ears, orange spotted, and the stunning pumpkin seed.
I think you skipped long ears because you knew I'd make a joke about you.
Lick my balls.
Sunfish could be S tier.
You're tripping. They're mid at best.
They're better than mid. They are a beautiful fish that are super easy to catch at any point in the year.
Plus, they taste pretty good.
They are not an eating fish, bro.
Why the hell you think they're called panfish?
Because they're shaped like a pan.
No, idiot, because you fry them in a pan.
I'm above cooking a sunfish.
I'm at B tier because they are gorgeous and abundant. They make for an okay sport fish as well as act as pretty good bait.
Now, that's too low for me, but I guess.
You're gonna sit there and pretend you've never been pricked by the spikes of a bluegill?
True that, and since you can't lip them like a bass unless they're giant, you pretty much got to deal with those spikes.
It's actually their little butthole spikes that get me all the time. For that, B tier is okay.
Watch out for those anal fins. How about perch?
Now this is the true panfish of legends. The yellow perch is one of the best eating fish out there.
A fine fish. It's tasty, beautiful, easy to catch, and available to almost every state.
Although they're a lot more common in the Northeast, they are one of the most quietly sought after of the American freshwater fish species.
I think there's only one real downside to them, and it's their size. A monster yellow perch is only a couple pounds.
If they got to the size of bass, they would be an easy S tier.
So it's an A tier?
That's good.
Cool. Next is the calico bass, also known as the crappie.
I've had some really crappy days out on the water.
Your comedic power is terrifying.
They look like a hybrid of a bass and a sunfish.
I feel like they are similar to the perch, but they're just a lot bigger.
Not a whole lot bigger, but still facts.
I would argue that they are a better sport fish than perch because of their size. But perch are superior in color and meat quality.
Are we talking about white crappie or black crappie?
Both. They're all one creed of crappie.
I like white crappie more.
Here we fucking go.
White crappie aren't afraid to get out into open water, while the black crappie just finds a log or a weed bed and sits there its whole life, lazy.
That's because the black crappie has been persecuted its whole fucking life. Who do you think drove the black crappie under the logs in the first place? Those goddamn white crappie always put the black crappie down.
Are we still talking about fish?
I don't think so. We can talk about crappie inequality another time. We thinking they're A tier?
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm Gucci with that.
Okay, we're on to bass.
Damn right we are.
Got one, Don?
No, Barack, my rod has always bent like this. Yes, I have one, and it doesn't feel small.
Damn, it's a pig.
Oh, God.
The thing's like 10 pounds.
Shut the fuck up, Joe.
He's taking you into the weeds. Tighten that drag.
No, he's off.
Dude, that sucks, Broseph. It was so big.
Shut up, shut up, shut up. Ah!
Well, at least it gave you a good fight.
I'm gonna KMS.
That would make the election a lot easier, so feel free.
Come on, Don. A wise man once told me, stop crying and keep fishing. This has happened to all of us, and it's part of the journey.
It was my PB, Barack. And I lost my lipless crank.
I know, man. It was a goddamn toad.
Hey, Don, you can crack open this new rattle trap and get back at her.
You're right, bros. Sorry I freaked out there.
Completely understandable. Snapping off on a giant is one of the most emotional experiences of a man's life. I remember snapping off on a massive rainbow trout. I nearly dove headfirst down the nearest waterfall.
I feel like this is actually a perfect example of the next fish on the tier list. That huge largemouth swung you right into the weeds like it knew exactly where to get you tangled.
What a smart fish.
I told you not to use the word smart with me, Joe. I will admit, the fact that those big ones are that elusive to catch is the very reason they're so fun to fish for. No wonder largemouth are the most targeted fish in America.
Even my weeaboo Japanese brethren adopted the largemouth to their waters because they're just that fun to fish for.
Not like that was a very smart decision. These bass dominate any freshwater that can sustain their never-ending appetite.
If we had to choose a fish instead of an eagle to represent America, it would definitely be the largemouth bass.
Is it because they eat everything in fucking sight?
No, it's because they're powerful and ambitious, paired with having the best weapons and tactics for killing absolutely everything below itself in the food chain. Exactly like how the U.S. was before Biden became president.
Give me my crankbait back.
I don't think I will. You can have this purple one. It sucks.
Gee, thanks.
But like I was saying, there is no greater sport fish on this planet than the largemouth bass. No feeling quite like a head shake or a tail walk from a huge one. They fill every sport fisherman's needs. The small ones are aggressive and grow extremely fast, making them easy to catch. But once they get past around 3 or 4 pounds, they become pretty difficult to fool, but not at all impossible. The legendary 8+ pound bass are difficult to locate and even more difficult to land.
Anybody can catch a bass, but only a few fishermen can catch a monster bass.
Then again, you can hook into one at any point if conditions are right. Even a kid with a push-button reel can land a massive fish if they have an adult coaching them.
Teaching kids to fish for sunfish and bass is one of the most impactful moments in every kid's life.
Oh, it's great for establishing the rules of nature and the skills for survival.
Probably the best father-son activity, even better than sports.
Like you would know, we can't deny that the largemouth is S tier.
Between the chaotic fights and fun approaches to targeting these fish, there's no doubt in my mind that they are top tier.
They are the total package. S tier for sure. Now, how about their slightly smaller cousin, the smallmouth bass?
Smallies are great too.
Even though they lack the size of the largemouth, they make up for it by being twice as strong.
Maybe not twice as strong, but for sure a lot stronger. They also jump like 5 feet out of the water sometimes.
The best smallmouth are in places like the Great Lakes. Deep, clear water and rocky bottom is their favorite.
Their range is a lot smaller than largemouth, but you can often find them in main river systems and even some lakes down south as far as Mexico.
It's often harder to target them without a boat to get to deeper water or a kayak to get up the rivers where they like to hang out.
During spawn is the easiest time to catch them. They are so aggressive to anything that enters their bed.
True, but at all other points in the year, it seems harder to get them in shallow water.
You got to fish for them at night. That's when they come up into the shallows. Just use a spinnerbait, buzzbait, or a jitterbug and have the time of your life.
I can't go night fishing. I sometimes end up sleeping all night outside accidentally.
I think smallmouth are A tier.
No way, bro. They are S tier for sure.
I'm going to break the tie and say S tier because they taste good, fight hard, and look beautiful. That makes up for them being slightly smaller than largemouth and harder to find.
Facts. I'm glad I can agree with you on one thing. Still not better than the goat largemouth, though.
Fair enough. How about the spotted bass?
Never caught one.
That's no surprise. They're mainly a deep water bass, so you probably won't accidentally catch them.
Yeah, they have all the parts that make smallmouth inferior to largemouth, but to a further extent.
Sounds like an A tier then.
Kind of glossing over them a little, but yeah, I'd be even lower, to be honest. Pretty annoying to fish in the middle of the lake as a bunch of upper-class whites on prescription drugs blow by you while water skiing.
I'm riding with Biden this time with the A tier. They could be S tier, but the fact that they are even less accessible than smallmouth hurts them a little.
Still a fun fish for sure. How about white bass?
Some of the tastiest fish you can bring home, I'm telling you, man.
We're back to what is pretty much a panfish to me. They don't get much bigger than 2 pounds, so you're pretty much just looking to eat them.
The range is pretty good, following the entire Mississippi River and surrounding states.
Plus, these little guys actually pack a huge punch on ultralight gear.
They are almost too easy to catch for me, plus there's really no point to keep fishing after you've caught your limit, whereas I'm releasing most large or smallmouth bass and continuing on.
I disagree. You get into a school of them and it's a blast.
I think we can give them an A tier.
Fine by me.
Yeah, that's realistic, and not too many white bass tournaments, to be honest.
Right, now on to the big boys. How about the striped bass?
This is still a freshwater species list, right?
Stripers appear up rivers and are even in lakes, Donnie.
I know, they're just a lot harder to find than, say, smallmouth.
You'd be surprised. They are oftentimes stocked into lakes.
No doubt they are the largest bass in the waters of America.
Stripers are also a true bass, while largemouth and smallmouth are actually in the sunfish family.
I actually did not know that, Barack. Nice one.
Are you guys referring to Morone saxatilis?
Good point, Joe. Let's not be nerds about this. I usually get charters for these guys in saltwater, but I'm sure it would be even more fun on a bass boat in a lake.
Catching stripers on regular bass gear must be insane.
They don't jump unlike some of the other bass on the list. It's still an absolutely massive fight whenever you hook into one, though.
Good in all categories. Plus, it's a huge fish. I'd say S tier.
Very tasty, so I'd agree.
Have you eaten every fish, Joe?
All the ones that appear in Delaware. There was so little to do for me in those days, I'd fish every single day on government pay.
That's actually pretty impressive.
Okay, well, S tier for striper. How about the newest addition to the bass family in the U.S., the peacock bass?
Awesome fish. Might be the most beautiful of all fish on this list.
Sucks. They only really appear in Florida, though. I don't even know what they taste like.
If we were in the Amazon, then I'd say S tier, but they are nothing more than invasive pets in Florida.
Not true, Don. Although they may have grown in number recently, they were originally introduced by the Florida Wildlife Commission in the 80s. Considered non-invasive.
In that case, I think a B tier is in order because they have everything the striper has plus insane color, with the one huge drawback being that you may need to fight a drunk Floridian or two in order to get to them.
That's some sound logic there, bud. I'll agree.
Great! I knew you both really needed to get out here. I've found a lot of satisfaction and relaxation from coming out here at least once a week or two.
All you people watching might profit from touching grass as well.
He's right. Get out there with a buddy or two and have a great day outdoors.
Cheers to that. Where do we think the American eel fits?
Eels are pretty bad, to be honest. No real reason to target them unless you really wanted to eat them, and I don't know anybody who wants to deal with the slime.
I did try eel and it wasn't bad.
Then it makes sense that we overfished them into endangered status.
True, but it's not like you're really out to eat them or catch them for sport. I'd say D tier.
I'm going to put them in C for the fact that they fed this country to the point of their near extinction.
True.
Sure, I guess.
Now on to the common carp.
Carp or trash fish?
Yeah, I've never been big on them.
Hold on, I think they're a little slept on. They get pretty huge, even over 50 pounds.
Yeah, sure, they get big, but they don't fight as hard as other fish, the same size at least after a couple minutes.
That pretty much goes for most fish.
They can still give you a great fight, especially if you hook into one with bass gear or a fly rod.
They are invasive as well.
Okay, we've been throwing around this invasive word a lot, but in reality, the fish that appear in our waters are a melting pot of fish from all over the world. Even largemouth were heavily pushed throughout the country for legit hundreds of years.
So all illegals are okay? That's your solution? Classic Democrat.
That's not what I'm saying. Some fish were introduced years ago and filled a role in the ecosystem, allowing nature to take its course. The common carp is among these fish, just as the bass are.
I'm with you on that, bro. Carp is still the boniest fish I've ever tried to eat. Almost died like 6 times during that meal. Meat was fine, nothing special.
Again, there are ways of cooking the bones out.
Or you could just catch a fish in the high tiers that doesn't have a trillion bones. D tier.
I'm with you, Don.
I'd be at B tier, but I guess you all are ignorant. The real trash fish is up next, the Asian carp.
Holy shit, I remember seeing the numbers on how much money this country spends on keeping these fish from destroying the ecosystem of the whole Mississippi River.
It's a failed effort at this point. Nothing can stop them.
This is what I'm talking about with invasive species. The common carp does little damage to the environment, while the Asian carp has proliferated out of control with few predators that can even make a dent in the population. It's to the point where they even threaten humans. because they jump clean out of the water as boats approach them and can do serious damage.
It's honestly fucking hilarious to see that, but also sad because our government got defeated by a fish.
Since it's actually destroying the ecosystem of one of the biggest river systems in the world, they deserve a fat F tier.
You should leave them on the bank if you ever catch one, or more likely, they end up jumping into the boat.
For sure, a kill-on-sight fish, F tier. Now we're moving into catfish.
Cats are great. I love the amount of meat you can harvest from one catch.
Catfish are one of the best targets for fishing in the U.S., nearly the largest type of fish to target as well.
We can start with the cats you can find around here in the Northeast and beyond. The bullhead catfish, also known as hornpout.
Sounds like Don when he lost the election to me.
You mean when it was stolen from me?
These catfish are very common throughout the U.S. and are a very popular fish, both for sport and sometimes for eating. They can live in worse water conditions than almost any other fish in America.
I love going for these guys because you can use almost any meat to get them biting. I usually use cut hot dogs and a sinker with great success. Unfortunately, they aren't the greatest tasting fish ever.
That's probably because you pull them out of a mud hole usually. They also don't get nearly as big as other catfish coming up. 7 pounds is a record-sized bullhead, while that same size would be a little one compared to the other cats.
They deserve props for being so widespread and easy to catch. In a lot of places, it's almost a guarantee to catch a hornpout if you go at night.
I'm thinking we go B tier on these because they can totally sting the shit out of you with the barbels.
Okay, cool. How about channel cats?
Hell yeah, brother! These guys are great.
I absolutely love these cats. They are the kings of the waterways where I'm from.
Channel catfish are the most numerous and the most targeted catfish in North America, and it's easy to see why.
They get huge, 50 pounds sometimes.
All the sizes in between are fun to catch and great to eat.
Really no downside to them. They hit on all categories very well.
Pretty easy to target them too. A lot of bait works well, although live bait is the best for me.
There's a wide variety of ways to catch them too. You can even noodle for them.
People who noodle are fucking crackheads. You're just asking for a snapping turtle to take a finger from you.
Or cottonmouth.
Like your cottonmouth. Drink something before your throat closes up, old timer.
Why don't you go sip some water while leaning forward with your lips fully extended like you're kissing an asshole?
So where do we land on channel cats?
Pretty easy S tier, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, cool. Now on to blue catfish.
Blues are also gigantic. Record is close to 150 pounds. That's even bigger than Joe's frail ass.
They're too big to eat sometimes. They also will break your bass gear instantly.
I know George catches them sometimes down in Texas.
They are slightly less of a predator than other catfish, being much more omnivorous and even become scavengers some of the time. I don't know if that's why they're more elusive than, say, the channel catfish, but I expect that's probably why.
They also don't taste as good as channel cats, but still fine depending on the location.
Splitting hairs here, boys. It's still a monster fish, and it's an event to pull in a big one.
True, we thinking A tier?
Good to go?
I'd be at S tier, but one broke my favorite bass rod.
Okay, sweet. The last catfish we'll cover is the flathead.
Never caught one of these.
You're missing out, big time. This is the holy grail of catfishing. The flathead is the hardest fighting cat by far. Anglers are always trying to hook into one of these giants. They've been known to rip rods straight out of people's hands.
They achieve a similarly large size as the blue cats while having the taste of the channel cats and fight harder than any of them.
Gotta use live bait for these ones. They are an apex predator.
Damn, they sound like the best fish I've never caught.
We should all go down to George's soon. The river he's on has all the catfish, especially these mud cats.
I think it's more fun trying to find these fish around cover than fishing for catfish in open water.
They are rivals to the largemouth as the best fish to target in America.
Sounds S tier to me.
It was never really a question. Now we should talk about the pike family, starting with the pickerel.
Fuck these things. I've never once heard of a person who enjoys catching the danger pickle.
You can't even eat those things, man.
You can, you just have to deal with the slime, the smell, and the trillion bones.
They have no value as bait, no value to eat. They invest all their energy on the initial strike, so the fight is awful. And you can't even hope to get it off your hook without either getting bit or covering yourself in pickerel jizz.
They also don't even get close to the size of their cousins.
Yeah, they're mainly just a nuisance bycatch when fishing for bass.
F tier, the Rosie O'Donnell of fish.
Facts.
That's fine by me. Next is the northern pike.
Okay, these guys are big and actually put up a great fight.
They do have all the same stuff that make pickerel bad, like the slime and the teeth, but these are mitigated by the size and power of these fish.
I think the teeth are badass. Just bring a net and some pliers and you'll be fine. They are pretty easy to hold by the gill. You just got to be careful.
A 50-pound pike would be quite a legendary fish. Plus, most of pike fishing is shallow sight fishing. It can be very action-packed with topwaters and buzz baits.
I think they are great sport fish.
The range is some of the largest of any species of freshwater fish. You can find these things all over Europe and Asia as well.
Thing definitely fits in the top tiers.
I'm thinking A tier, all things considered.
That's good. Leaves room for the next one. How do we like muskellunge?
Better than pike, but almost the same. The fight is good, but mostly due to size.
They are huge, though. I've seen them take down ducks.
They do only get slightly larger than pike. The record is 69 pounds.
Nice.
I think the legend of a giant muskie is like a fisherman's dream. They are more elusive than pike, but the prestige of catching a big one puts you in another class of fishermen.
It's a true sport fish, just like the pike, because you're really only going for catch and release, hunting for monsters.
River Monsters is a goated show.
Jeremy Wade is a legend.
Dude is a little too dramatic for me. He hears a fisherman's tale from a blackout drunk guy in a third world country and thinks there are raid boss fish out here killing people for fun.
He does put a bit of flair on his content, but it was a great formula for one of the most successful shows on Animal Planet for years.
Show is a banger. We should make a River Monsters tier list.
Let me know if you guys want that in the comments. So where are we placing the muskie?
S tier for me, it's almost mythical for fishermen.
I'd put it in A tier with pike. The fight isn't like the legends in S tier.
I agree with Joe. I'll push it through to S tier.
Fine, I guess we're being generous. Goddamn liberal fishermen.
How about Longnose Gar?
I'm surprised Gar even made it on here. You gotta catch them with rope rather than hooks.
Another dumbass take, Donald. It's a great sport fish. They're big, strong, and taste just like chicken.
Plus, they're some of the oldest fish on the planet. They've been around since the time of the dinosaurs.
Just like Joe.
You're so fucking funny.
You're so old you forgot to laugh.
Gar are a species that you pretty much have to be targeting specifically to catch unless you foul hook them.
I'm not too big on them. They're actually dangerous to catch and release. You got to get rope untangled from a strong fish that usually isn't done fighting by the time it gets to the boat and has hundreds of sharp little teeth.
It can be a dangerous ordeal.
You do have a point, Don. Definitely not a fish to target unless you have some experience.
I will admit they are great fighters and have good meat, I've heard.
Shall we say B tier on the longnose?
That's acceptable.
No argument from me. How about the larger Aligator Gar?
Now this is a river monster.
Don't let Jeremy Wade fool you. They are only dangerous to fishermen that decide to bring them on board.
That's facts. If you thought the longnose is dangerous to deal with, you'd be in for a boss fight with the Gator Gar. They can reach over 300 pounds.
Just like Donnie.
Fuck you.
But seriously, they are the second biggest freshwater fish you can catch in North America.
It is crazy to think that they can get over 4 times larger than the record muskie.
Too bad that opportunity is only for those that visit or live in Texas or Louisiana.
Yeah, their range is much more restricted than the longnose. Plus, they are not an easy fish to hook into.
I've heard that bow fishing for them is more successful if you're trying to eat them.
Although it's tough to hook into them, at least the gear needed isn't too complex. Pretty much just need some cut bait and tackle that's strong enough for big catfish or stripers, and you're into the gar life.
Okay, Gator Gar are pretty awesome in almost every way, but the downsides of their limited range, the fact that they can carve the shit out of you with loose teeth, and the difficulty of actually hooking them makes them C tier in my book.
The legend of these armored dinosaur fish is enough for me to say A tier.
I think I'm leaning toward Don in this case. This species is not for beginners or even the vast majority of anglers. C tier is fine.
You win some, you lose some.
Sounds like you've been preparing for the election.
I'm gonna whoop you just like I would in a bass tournament.
My bag would be twice the weight of yours, Joe. Don't kid yourself.
Only if you're leaning on the scale.
Okay, let's move on to Snakehead.
These things are crazy. They have everything that the high tier have, but one immense drawback. Just like the thousands of immigrants crossing the border, they don't belong here.
Chill, bro, it's not that deep.
Similar to the shallow water where these fish thrive.
Just like the Asian carp, snakehead are a serious problem for the fisheries of America. They outcompete all the native bass and shit, and cost taxpayers thousands of dollars.
True, that's a big knock.
They're even getting into the waters in Delaware.
They look cool, taste good, fight hard, and are generally a badass fish, but it's still an F-tier kill-on-sight fish.
A bit harsh, but not unnecessary.
Sure, but if this was Asia, it would be S tier. How about the bowfin?
Hell yeah, this is just like the snakehead, but native.
Not as good, too bony, and dozens of sharp teeth.
They're also pretty rare, even though their range is fairly big.
Damn, I thought they were only in Florida. Hell of a fighter to their credit.
Yeah, with that being said, I think they're pretty mid.
C tier?
That's fine.
How about the plecostomus?
What did I tell you about the nerd shit?
It's the common Plecco, like the sucker from the pet store.
I like those little guys. I always had one in my fish tank.
Well, so did everyone else, and since they outgrew almost every aquarium, it resulted in the Plecco taking over many waterways in Texas and Florida due to irresponsible people dumping them into the lakes.
By the previous rankings, that means they're F tier.
He's got a point.
Although it can actually be pretty fun to catch them, I agree. How about the white sucker?
Why don't you ask Trump since he is one?
Very funny, Sleepy. These fish are actually pretty slept on. They fight pretty hard, taste good, and make for great bait as babies.
A very versatile fish, I agree with you, Donnie. Where would you place them?
Not quite in the high tiers, but B tier seems fine for them.
Sweet, let's go over the legendary sturgeon now.
Oof, this is a tank.
The biggest freshwater fish in North America by a mile. The biggest was over 1,000 pounds and 12 feet long.
That's like 2 Donalds.
Pretty sharp today, Joe. Took all your meds on time?
They jump clean out of the water at that size and makes them S tier in my mind.
Not quite, Joe. Sturgeon are massively endangered almost everywhere. Only in some places can you actually even fish for them. A couple places in Cali.
It makes them hard to put into the high tiers, even though they are the biggest.
B tier feels fine.
Fine, shit. There are so many fishes to catch.
The waterways must be explored.
How do we feel about cichlids?
Did you say sick? Do you have COVID? Bro, I can't survive another brawl with it.
No, bro, like Oscars and shit.
The only Oscar the Grouch that I know is Don.
Shut up, bro, and stop stalling. I got golf with the Nelk boys soon.
Oh, my bad. I had no idea, moron.
Bro, why are we doing cichlids right now? This isn't an aquarium tier list.
We should totally fucking do that. Comment and like the video.
No, man, the cichlids are loose in Florida.
What isn't loose in Florida? And I'm personally calling out the hose in Miami,
Those things are pretty cool, but they belong behind glass.
just like you belong in a nursing home.
Probably. I think these things are D tier because it's kind of cool that you can catch an expensive aquarium fish in the wilds of Florida.
You mean a bunch of shit canals with hostile, racist, drunk, white trash people everywhere?
I pretty much prefer the alligators to the Floridians.
I can live with D tier, though. I would definitely have a bunch of aquariums with wild-caught fish if I chose the way of many seniors and retired in Florida.
Same here, man. How about tilapia?
They're good to eat for the most part.
Another fish that would have never been in the wild without some Floridian trying to raise 1 trillion of them in a swimming pool for crack money.
That's unbelievably true, but they pretty much fit into D tier alongside the cichlids, except they are better off being a meal than a pet.
That's pretty clean. I dig it. What about walleye?
Overrated?
Whoa.
Holy shit, Donnie, you just called out so many walleye fishermen.
Yeah, you're never going to win Michigan in the election with that kind of talk.
Let me guess, you ate one and it tasted good, therefore good fish.
That pretty much sums it up, yeah?
There's more to them than just the meat. They are a cool-looking fish that has a pretty wide range and a big following of anglers.
They have the strength of Sleepy Joe, and they stay way in the basement of the lake just like him too.
Just because you have trouble finding deep water fish doesn't mean the fish is overrated.
Then why is it considered a nuisance everywhere outside the Great Lakes?
That's exaggerated, Don, and you know it.
In any case, my points still stand. The walleye gets even bigger than largemouth, yet they are not even close to as fun to catch or fight. It's like they gave up on America after Joe was elected.
You shut your mouth before I take you behind the bait and tackle shop and teach you a lesson.
You're just mad because you know I'm right.
I actually kind of agree.
No, Brock.
Joe, all I'm saying is that they're B tier.
Dude, there's literally no better ice fishing target. Not putting walleye in the high tiers is a crime. I should add this to your charges.
Good thing you guys are soft on crime.
He's right, B tier it is.
Vote for Biden and I'll stock walleye in every lake in America.
Vote for me and I'll throw Joe and Hunter in jail and force them to eat uncooked pickerel.
That's demonic.
Okay, y'all, we're down to the home stretch, trout and salmon.
My personal favorites.
We can start with the rainbow trout.
My personal favorite of my favorites.
Joe actually has a point this time. Rainbows are the pinnacle of trout fishing.
I believe they're the best fish to target in America.
Largemouth bass has left the chat.
I remember trying to get a rainbow in every river or lake that held them at one point in my life. Walking the rivers fly fishing was the best time I've ever had in the outdoors. Too bad they won't let me do that anymore.
You can't even ride a bike. You really think anyone wants you walking around slippery rivers and shit? That's just a recipe to make Kamala president.
Oh, God, no. It's like I can hear her cackling in the far distance.
Doesn't change the fact that these guys are S tier.
Being the most numerous, hardest fighting, most beautiful, and most delicious fish in most rivers, I think they deserve S tier.
Boy, they are pretty, huh? I'm surprised the gays haven't claimed them as their fish yet.
Although they aren't as good of a sport fish as bass are, they do provide an extremely satisfying experience and love to jump out of the water. Plus, they get pretty big for a trout, and the saltwater variety of the rainbow called the steelhead, is an even bigger and stronger challenge.
S tier they go then. How about brook trout?
Nothing wrong with these guys either, S tier.
I think rainbows are the only S-tier trout. Brookies aren't bad, but certainly way more elusive.
Skill diff.
It's really not a skill diff. It's more to do with the fish biology, like their name suggests. Brook trout stay in the brooks, streams, and rivers, while rainbows can be in lakes just as often as rivers.
They also don't get as big as rainbow trout, so the drive to chase them is somewhat less than with giant rainbows.
I will tolerate an A tier, but that's as far as I'll go.
B tier for me.
I'll go A tier, and now brown trout.
They're pretty cool. Not as good as rainbows, but better than brookies.
This fish is actually found worldwide and was introduced to the United States in the 60s.
Unfortunate that they don't taste very good, especially when compared to rainbows.
Not as big as most other trout, but they at least fight pretty hard.
They also can be in much warmer waterways than rainbows or brookies, extending their already world-renowned range.
Sounds like another A tier.
I'm okay with that.
Same. Now the lake trout.
More of a Canadian fish. Cringe.
They get over 100 pounds, biggest trout by far.
Yawn.
This is actually in the char family.
This is why we can't take you out anywhere, man.
Says the dude who's always sniffing young women.
Lakers are the most lazy fish ever. It's like reeling in a dead raccoon.
Their range is also pretty limited.
Not like they're terrible to fish for. Some anglers swear by them as both a sport fish and table fare.
That's not the popular opinion, though. Most people think they taste like shit and put up no fight.
It's fair to mention that some fish fight harder during one season than another. Maybe y'all have been fishing for them in the wrong conditions to get the best of them.
Bass fight hard no matter what.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So B tier then.
I was thinking C tier.
B tier is great, Barack.
Oh, okay, B takes it. Now all that's left is the salmon. We can start with the Atlantic landlocked salmon.
There's no more legendary fish to fight in freshwater than the salmon.
Their jumping ability is pretty unreal.
These fish are part of the history of America. Some native tribes would devote their entire culture to the collection of these fish.
Shut your Elizabeth Warren head ass up.
Oh my God.
Landlocked salmon are pretty rare, but if you ever hook into one, you're in for an amazing fight with more jumping than any other fish.
Yeah, they don't get massive, but still an outstanding fish on light tackle. Usually a 4-pound test is all you can do because these fish can see line pretty well and only live in clear water for the most part.
If you hook into a 6 or 7 pound salmon on 4-pound test, it's like fighting a marlin.
Not to mention it's salmon, so it'll be goddamn delicious.
Yeah, it's overall a really tough fish to find and catch, but it's altogether worth it if you can land a good-sized one.
I think it deserves a high tier.
S tier for sure.
A tier, their range is extremely limited in freshwater.
Damn, you have a point there, Don. I'll go A tier.
You're shitting me.
Next is the Chinook or king salmon.
Saltwater fish doesn't count.
There are some that stay in fresh water.
Yeah, and we have stripers on the list, so who cares?
Also, they're in the Great Lakes.
Too bad you gotta troll through all the walleye fishermen.
Not the walleye again.
You favor the strongest fighting fish over all others, Don. The king salmon is called king for a reason. 45-minute fights are not unheard of. Plus, it's the biggest salmon in the waters, and it still jumps like other salmon as well.
You are correct on all fronts. I will admit, there isn't a single downside to these fish unless you live on the East Coast and need to travel to find them.
Great Lakes aren't that far.
It's probably better to go to Alaska for them after all, but Cali is more fun than Detroit.
Any Democratic state is going to be shit anyway, so might as well go to California and walk the streets with the homeless.
That is a vibe.
It's a little difficult to target these monsters at times. You got to go past 100 feet hunting for structure.
You pretty much need a boat for them.
That doesn't take away the fact that they're the pinnacle of freshwater fishing.
Whoa there, Barack. Them is fighting words to a bass or trout fisherman.
Yeah, what he said.
You can't deny the power of the king.
You're right. I can't, S tier.
I'm good with that. It's every fisherman's dream to duel a huge king.
Last one, guys, the Coho salmon.
The color on these guys is cool, especially during spawn.
Still more of a saltwater fish to me.
They're in the Great Lakes, just like the kings.
Then why not just target the kings?
Kind of the same process, just slightly different sized baits sometimes.
Well, they don't get as big as kings, so wouldn't they be bycatch?
Is a smallmouth bycatch of a largemouth?
Good point.
Logically, if we put the Atlantic in A tier, it's either A or S tier for cohos.
I'm on the S tier side of things. Not as good as kings, but still one of the most fun species of fish to target both for food and sport.
Plus, they look incredible.
Almost as good as the sockeye.
We won't be rating that one. It's truly more of an ocean species. They're also one of the only fish that people intentionally foul hook to catch while they're in fresh water to spawn.
Kind of whack. Cohos are the bomb, though. S tier?
It's splitting hairs at this point, but I'll have to push cohos into low S tier for their ability to get into shallows and provide a legendary fight for a fly fisherman.
Okay, fine. The S tier could have been a bit smaller, though.
I know for a fact that there are some anglers that think bluegill are S tier. Every fish has the potential to be S tier in my eyes. It just depends on the context.
That's the beauty of fishing, Donald. Whatever fish you like the best may be entirely based upon location or another singular category that provides the satisfaction and joy we've all found when spending time in the beautiful rivers and lakes of America.
You both could have just said whatever floats your boat. Either way, pickerel still blow.
You're just ignorant.
I'm ignorant, huh? Where has your bobber been for the last 10 minutes?
Guys, I got one.
Here we go, Joe.
Yeah, really impressive timing. If you waited any longer, the fish would have digested the hook.
It's a huge rainbow.
All right, Joe, let's see you bring it in.
I got you with the net. Don't horse it.
Holy fuck, he's strong.
Bring him home, Joey.
Almost.
Got him.
Yeah, let's go.
It's a big one.
Good fish, Joe.
Thanks, bros. I'll be eating good tonight.
Be sure to find the hook when you gut it.
That's about a 4-pound rainbow. Crazy.
I haven't seen one this big in a while. Come here, you. Let Uncle Joey smell you.
I'm now uncomfortable for the trout.
If you made it this far, I want to thank you. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed and comment any ideas for future videos. I'm going to go eat this thing and leave these losers to get skunked.
Asshole.
Bye, folks.